Yeah. You're on there.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting of December 4th, 2023. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have 5 consent items on tonight's agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'd request that we remove 152, 150, orders 152, 153, and 154 from the consent agenda.
Okay. That leaves 2. 152, 153, and 154. 154. That leaves orders 155 and 156 on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Counselor Staples. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second for Counselor Moore. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, consent passes 6-0. Next, we have the minutes of the November 20th regular city council meeting. Are there any corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Counselor Staples, second by Counselor Walker. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 7-0. Now, on to communications, presentations, and recognition. First is a proclamation for Small Business, excuse me one second, Small Business Saturday. And we do this annually. It's a national event, and I'm going to read this proclamation tonight. Whereas small businesses are the backbone of Maine and Auburn's economy, and whereas local small business support our community in the way of wages, taxes, donations to local schools, and charities. And whereas studies have consistently shown that supporting the growth of existing small businesses produce a majority of economic growth in a community, and that entrepreneurs and small businesses stimulate job creation, develop crucial innovation, and promote the diversification of local economies. Whereas the City of Auburn supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Saturday, December 9th, 2023, in the City of Auburn, Small Business Saturday, a day when we all encourage to thank our business community for the contributions to the way of life in Auburn. I urge the residents of Auburn to make special effort to support our small businesses here in Auburn on Small Business Saturday and all year long. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Auburn to be affixed this 4th day of December, 2023. Next, recognition of outgoing officials. This is the last meeting of this term, and I'll turn over to the city manager right now to conduct this.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. Just a couple comments for Mayor Levesque, Councilor Hawes, Councilor Moore, and Council Staples. On behalf of the city staff, thank you for your service. It takes a committed individual to step in the arena of public service. Your judgment, intellect, and integrity is often called into question, but your time and your service came with sacrifices. It's vital for every community to have individuals like yourselves willing to stand in the gap like you have done. I admire each of you and those who will come after you for your contribution to the citizens of Auburn. It's greatly appreciated. Staff did go through and take a look and identify just some highlights from not just this previous term, but the mayor having served 6 years. A lot's taken place within the city of Auburn during that time. We celebrated our 150th celebration as a city, which was a great kickoff to Mayor Levesque's term. We hosted the State of Maine Bicentennial Parade. We had numerous signature events over these last few years, like New Year's Auburn, enhancing the Auburn Blues and Brews Festival, the most recent Auburn Lobster Festival, and then when we think about what's taken place within this chamber, at least in the past 6 years, we've had 824 council orders that went through the councilors. In the last the last 2 years during your term, there are 288 orders that have been approved, separate from the ones that will be done tonight. 130 ordinances and 54 resolves. Some of those resolves included memorable actions like the John Jenkins Memorial Footbridge, the dual enrollment at Edward Little High School, and then if we look at these past 2 years, we've seen numerous critical infrastructure changes. Engine 2 Fire Station is now underway. The Lake Street School repurpose, the Auburn Suburban Little League with its new location, the Pal Center project, the sale of St. Louis Church, and we all look forward to see what will come of that critical building within our new Auburn community and neighborhood. The public safety building referendum, and we've opened the doors to the new high school. So a lot of great things have taken place, and it's very much appreciated, the work and the commitment that you all have done, and those, like I said, that will be staying on, and those that will be coming after you. Right now we have some plaques. If we could, we'd have Mayor Levesque is going to have Councilor Hawes, Councilor Moore, and Councilor Staples, if you don't mind going up to the front here. Mayor, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Phil. So, Councilor Moran, Councilor Staples, and Councilor Hawes, if you could come up here. So, I think this is working. Yeah, it's working now. So, just to dovetail off what the manager said tonight, these three individuals, outstanding representation to the city of Auburn, and I just want to say a little bit about each one of them on a personal note. First of all, Councilor Hawes, he actually taught me a lot. One of the big things he taught me was that Marines actually can think for themselves, which is the first Marine I've actually ever worked with, which is kind of a big deal. And, you know, he likes crayons as snacks. But no, when Councilor Hawes called me up out of the blue, I had no idea who this guy was. This is 2.5 years ago now. He goes, I want to meet. I want to have coffee. I want your job. I'm like, well, okay, let's talk about that. And we had a great conversation about service to the community, his kids, his family, and how to build an Auburn for the future. And I got to tell you, Councilor Hawes, you went out there, you did the work, you did the research, you made choices, and Auburn's a better place. So thanks for calling me that day. So that was a good day. And Councilor Moran, I've known Councilor Moran for 20 plus years on and off. And he reached out to me some years ago when he was starting to work in the industrial manufacturing area here in Auburn, and talking about business, talking about jobs, talking about how we need people here to work in these vibrant companies that so few of us have actually even heard of. And it's that conversation just kept going and going to how can you give back? How can you help his young son and his family? And how many generations of Morans have called Auburn home? 5 or 6, yeah, that's a lot, and hopefully another 5 or 6 will. Councilor Moran, you've been a rock. Those noon calls throughout the last 2 years, checking in, thinking, having deep thoughts. Your work with your constituency, it's just been that insight, that valuable listening that you brought into the conversation, into the debates, has been priceless. So thank you for that. On behalf of the entire city of Auburn, thank you. And then there's Councilor Staples. I love your shirt. I think it's the same brand. And that was not planned. We don't talk that often. But Councilor Staples, I've had the pleasure of knowing Councilor Staples for about 4 or so years when he started work on the planning board, and really getting to understand him. And I will say, politically, probably no two people on this council are more politically polar opposites than Councilor Staples and I. But Councilor Staples, the enjoyment, the satisfaction of working with you and realizing there's common ground, regardless of what you might think about other topics, has been fascinating. Your work leading the comprehensive plan was educational, enlightening to me, as well as everybody who participated in the public. And your way with constituents and your understanding of very, very complex issues and making smart, informed decisions based upon facts has served this city immensely. And I know all 3 of these folks are going to have a bright future in the city of Auburn for decades to come. And they've already left their stamp, and I'm looking forward to seeing, what other contributions they make to the city of Auburn. So, on behalf of the city, thank you all very, very much. We appreciate all your sacrifice.
Turn on the lights.
Okay, is this on? And so, Mr. Mayor, this is also your last meeting, and you've had a great run, 6 years, 3 terms, and I'd like to thank you for everything that you've done in your leadership. And there's been some really fun things that you've done, like your New Year's Eve and the Lobster Festival. Some really critical, important leadership times that you led during that terrible time that we had a month or so ago. Showed great leadership there. You led in bringing the new school to life and going up to the State House to get the money to help with some of the environmental remediation that needed to happen. And most of all, you've been committed to the city of Auburn, and you've been the greatest cheerleader for the city of Auburn that I've ever seen. And so we've got a plaque for you. I want to thank you personally for all the work that you've done for the city of Auburn, but we also have, in recognition, we have something here for you that we'd like you to open.
I think it's a chair.
It's a chair.
It's a chair.
All right. Do we want to open it? Rocking chair. There. Get a picture in your rocking chair with your plaque? Yeah, that's a real deal.
Thank you.
Do we have a picture? Oh, we got.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got it.
Spell my name wrong. Okay, we're moving on now. So thank you again for that. That was very kind of you, all of you. I'm going to move on to the finance report. October 2023. Any questions, any comments? Jill Eastman, Finance Director, is right here. Anything? Nothing? This side would like to entertain a motion to accept the finance report for October 23.
Motion to approve. Second.
Second by Councilor Walker. Okay, any debate? None being, all those in favor? Okay, it's approved, 7-0. Next, council communications. Is there any communications from the council and manager about and to the community? Start to the left.
I have a couple. One is United New Auburn Association and the City of Auburn proudly presents the Christmas in the Park, Anniversary Park in New Auburn. We are going to have Santa Claus coming to light up our beautiful tree and other lights. So Saturday, December 9th, starts at 4 o'clock. Excuse me. Again, Anniversary Park in New Auburn. Santa will visit, and we also will have other things going on that evening. So don't miss out, because Santa Claus is going to come. Expect to have a couple thousand kids there, so come and enjoy yourself. Don't be late, because if Santa Claus leaves, you'll have to wait until the 25th to see him. So you want to see him early. Come December 9th, 4 o'clock, Anniversary Park. That is where the St. Louis Bell Tower is, if you don't know, right next to the Little Androscoggin River. We can have a good time together, and this is going to be a great event, because Auburn and United New Auburn Association put in them hats together, and it's going to be a great turnout for everybody.
Thomas? Clear? Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things, just to add to Counselor Walker. We appreciate all the work that he does with United New Auburn Association, and this will be a great event. I also want to highlight that AuburnChristmasVillage.com. It's a great site to go to. You'll find out who the vendors are that will be in the shopping village from now until leading up till Christmas. So I encourage you to go and check out that website, look at the vendors, come out when the vendors are there. That's part of our effort to bring makers to Auburn and be part of that. And it gives them a great venue to be able to reach out to the community. There'll be Christmas wreaths, there'll be other crafts and other things that will be in the village, in those shops. So I encourage you to come out and take a look at that. Last thing that I have was, in this season of giving, the City of Auburn, our Senior Center, and Auburn Pal Center want to express our gratitude to those who provided Thanksgiving meals for members of our community. We'd also like to recognize the employees from Panalam who are with us this evening. And first is Operations Manager John Eberly and HR Manager Susan Hagestrom. If you could just stand real quick for us. Let's give them a... Thank you. Thanks for coming. And just so folks know, the staff from Panalam, the entire staff, they donated 30 turkeys, all the fixings for PAL families. Thank you for this generous donation, both of time for shopping for the meal items as well as the monetary donations that you provided. We greatly appreciate it. I don't know if you want to share anything, or you don't have to. We appreciate you coming. So.
She told me not to grab the mic. But no, we employ 300 people out there at Panama.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Mike?
We just want people at home to be able to hear you.
About 500,000 people watch us on any given Monday.
Yeah. It's on. You can just talk.
Podium.
I was going to say, the podium's right
Podium
here.
is.
Right here.
Yeah.
We got to check the batteries in there.
How's this? This any better? Okay. Anyway, thank you for inviting us, but I was about to say, we employ 300 folks out there at Panalam, also known as Pioneer Plastics, and just a good group of people who really are from the community, of course, who really care about the community. So 30 meals is not, insufficient, but at the same time, there are people there who, we are ready to contribute to the community. There's many opportunities for us to do more, but we never seem to have an issue when we ask for volunteers or any other charitable initiative. Never seem to have make any effort whatsoever. We announce it and people respond. They respond well, they respond quickly, and we're very proud of what we do. And they're very proud to be part of the community and also part of Panalam. So anyway, thank you again.
Thank you.
That's it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Many may not know, but our staff, especially Jay Branchek, who's our Economic Development Director, works very closely with Panalam. We've been really working on developing a strong workforce within our businesses. There's a great relationship there. Bringing new Mainers to these industrial businesses, manufacturers, are ensuring that they are here and they have a great workforce and producing great products right here within the City of Auburn. So thanks for everything that you do. We appreciate it. Also, our senior center served hot Thanksgiving meals to approximately 140 individuals and gave away about 75 Go boxes. Sponsors for that included John Morrison of Cure Inc. and Re-Energy, and donations covered both the Thanksgiving and a future New Year's event at the senior center. Members of the age-friendly community and some first Auburn seniors, they were the ones that were doing all the hard work of prep and serving the meal. Probably spent over 100 hours work by the volunteers that were involved. So we appreciate the work that our age-friendly committee does for our senior community and the entire community that came out for those meals. And then the City of Auburn's community service team, employees from the City of Auburn provided 9 complete meals, dinners to our neighbors in need. Additionally, the John Murphy Homes reached out and they provided another full meal for a total of 10 families. And then we also had generous donations from the Auburn Lewiston Exchange Club, the YMCA, I mentioned Panel Am, and many other individual donations. And so we were able to do 51 complete turkey dinners. 18 of those went to PAL families, 6 to the YMCA families, 10 to the Auburn School Department families, 3 from the Valerie Circle families, and then 15 families from the PAL neighborhood, and additionally 4 families went to the senior center from the group that was bringing out some of our PAL families. So on behalf of the mayor, the council, the city staff, I want to express my sincere thanks to all those who donated and gave their time, and really did make a difference for this Thanksgiving season. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, Mayor.
Okay, next we're going to open up the first open session of the night. Members of the public are invited to speak to the council about any issue directly related to city business, which is not on tonight's agenda. Please step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name's Maureen O'Brien. I live at 42 Winter Street. I'd like to speak about the ability of citizens to access public records. I tried to get a copy of the new PAL Center plans today and was told that they're not available, they won't be available until January. So I asked for a copy of the original plans and was told that no one is available. I said I'd come back in a couple of hours. When I came back in a couple of hours, I was told that I had to sign a form to request the plans. These were plans that I had been able to pick up when they were first available over a year ago. I was told by several staff that they couldn't even find a copy of the plans on the city website. These were plans that Phil Crowell had passed out at a PAL community meeting last summer and should have been available to any Auburn citizen, especially given the estimated cost of over $9 million. Plans that were free by originally by the architects. I don't know if the new plans are also free. I was later found out by reading the agenda tonight that the city's asking for money to be approved for the PAL Center. Why should we be approving money when we don't even know what the cost is? I ask that no money be approved unless and until all costs are identified by the City Council and the Planning Board. The city has gone around the back to approve the closing of Chestnut Street over the objections of people in the neighborhood. I really hope things change.
Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak?
Dave Griswold, 199 Gamage Avenue. I may be redundant, but I'll be brief. I wanted to thank all you folks at the end of your term for your service and your commitment over the last 2 years. I can recall when I was chair of the school committee how much time it takes to go to meetings, to study agendas, and the toll that it takes on your family. So I appreciate you guys all stepping up. Really, you folks are the ones that make the sausage for the city. And everybody in the city wants sausage made, but sometimes they like different varieties, so there's a little indigestion from time to time. But it's well worth it. And I would say that the other issue that you run into when you're making sausage is it's messy and you have to use a meat grinder. So thanks for your time in the meat grinder. Appreciate your service. Whether we've always agreed or not is irrelevant. The city needs folks like you to step up and do the job that we all need done. Thank you. No chairs.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. Mayor, staff, thank you for your time and your efforts you put into this city. Been in this community for a long time. 97, I guess. Bought the old Penley Corner Church. Very historical piece. Struggled trying to get permission to be on my property. It's a shame. Could have helped a lot of veterans by then. Still trying to do the same purpose. I'm not going away. Still trying to help my veterans. I help them every day. Just helped one gentleman the other day find a new purpose in life. That's all I want for that old historical church property. I just got the paperwork back from my file, and I just saw the first page. And I'm still shaking my head. It's noted into my report that the church is somewhere around the 1900s. You missed it by 100 years. It's 1807. Very historical piece. It's in our library, and I'm trying to put that property back into use for veterans to come to rehab, to be able to use the beautiful facility we have at Fox Ridge Golf Course to get them out, to get them some jobs, and to help them. This new mayor's coming on board's got a heck of a task. This gentleman in front of me was honest, told me what he was going to do, what he was trying to do, and he could only suggest simple techniques for me to try to go look forward to do. So not only am I doing those techniques, but I'm up in Augusta and I'm slamming the doors and I'm telling them all I want to make new law, which is a bill you have to put in to make things change for veterans in this state. I want this new committee, when this moves forward with a new mayor, I've asked this city, what out of all the ARP money went to any veteran programs in the city? Can anybody answer me that? I'll take that as a no. So let's work harder for your veterans in this community. You have one that pays taxes on 499 Penley Corner Road, Auburn, Maine. That is me. I'm living in the only veteran rehab, temporary housing for veterans in Lewiston called Veterans Inc. Was there any of those funds to help them? Was there any funds to be able to go help Jerry DeWitt down at the park? Beautiful veteran park that we have in this city. We need to start thinking about my veterans, the ones I'm trying to support, the ones I'm trying to fight for 21 years on that property, as well as your at-risk community. So help me out this next go-around. I'm still battling 21 years here, fellas, and I still ain't on my property. And I'm very disappointed that we couldn't get it done, Mayor, but you did as much as you could for me, and I thank you for that. But I'm still here, I'm still fighting, and please, please, take care of your veterans.
We can't, just as a reminder, we can't answer or engage in debate or conversation during a public session, but I would like to ask staff to explain to the speaker how we've waived all permitting fees for veterans, the new veteran park stones we put up over in Mount Auburn Cemetery, and there's something else, but it had to do with veterans, because I'm a veteran as well. I'm sorry, the new ag zone ordinances that we passed that will allow something to be built as long as they meet an minimal agricultural standard. Thank you. Anybody else from open session tonight? The first one? No? Okay. Thank you. Now, panel and folks, if you did want to step out for the rest of the meeting, please don't. You may. You may. And thank you again. Moving on, unfinished business. Next is ordinance 21-0918-2023, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 18, adult use of medical marijuana, business licensing. This is the second reading. The first reading and public hearing were held back on 10/16/2023, and it passed. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Staples, second from Councilor Hawes. Open this up to the public for comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this order? None being, we'll bring it back to the council. Council, debate? Discussion? Questions? None being, I'll ask for a roll call vote at this time.
Counselor Staples?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Whiting? Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Morin?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 7-0. Second reading. Next is ordinance 24-11202023, amending the Auburn zoning map to rezone all areas of the low-density rural residential or rural residential zoning district within the Lake Auburn watershed to the low-density country residential zoning district. It's a public hearing, second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilor Staples, Councilor Moore on the second. I'll open this up to the public, as this is a public hearing. If there's any members of the public that would like to speak, please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. As a reminder, as people contemplate this, this is moving density, limiting density, and moving it from 1 acre to 3 acres surrounding the watershed, or in the watershed. Nobody from the public? I'll bring it back to the council. Council, any debate, questions, past first reading last meeting? Any follow-up? None being, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
Counselor Staples?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Whiting? Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Morin?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 7-0. Next is ordinance 26-11202023, amending the Auburn zoning map for parcel ID 289-001, 289-002, and 277-026 from agricultural resource protection to general business. This is a public hearing and second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilor Milks, give it to Councilor Morin on the second. Open this up to the public for a hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? If so, please step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and limit your comments to about 3 minutes.
Hello. My name's Renee Cody, and I live on Dawes Avenue, and I just have a little public comment. I'd like to briefly review the process that led to tonight's vote on rezoning Gracelawn Road. Back in March of 2022, the council voted to rezone 120 acres from ag protected to general business and to move the watershed boundary much closer to the lake. Like the in-town rezoning changes, this was a widely unpopular vote and led to a petition drive to repeal the lake rezoning and a second petition drive to repeal the in-town rezoning. Both petition drives were successful and certified, freezing the effect of the rezoning. After an abortive 25-person petition to rezone was filed and abandoned, this council rejected the opportunity to put the rezonings to referendum, perhaps sensing that the referendums were likely to pass. Instead, the lake rezoning was repealed. Following the results of the CDM Smith report, the council is poised to approve a new watershed boundary line. Although moving this watershed boundary line has nothing to do with the rezoning, the planning board immediately proposed changing the zoning in the area outside the boundary line from ag protected to general business. There's no need to do this in haste, except for the preferences of the people who will benefit from the potential construction of a village close to the lake. The results of the November election, like the petition drive in 2022, clearly indicate that most Auburn citizens do not want development close to the lake. The results also indicate that we would like some deference from our elected officials. I ask that you consider the will of the majority to keep our lake undeveloped and have consideration for the pocketbooks of the water district ratepayers who do not want the result of potential development to be a hugely expensive filtration plant. I'm asking you to please vote against this rezoning. Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak?
Hello, Peter Dingley. This is kind of like deja vu. A year and a half ago, we went through the same process. You wanted to rezone the same piece of land next to the lake. And I was heavily involved in that petition drive, and I talked to hundreds of people, not just in my backyarders, but all over the city, from every walk of life. And every single person does not want general business next to the lake, plain and simple. It's very evident by all of what they said, and even recently, it's pretty evident that they don't want to go that direction. Taking your watershed boundary, you're moving it closer to the lake, and you want to butt right up to the watershed boundary, general business, which you can basically do anything with general business. That's a scary, scary proposition. I think you're asking for trouble. You know, the lake, like you know, is fragile, very fragile. That's the best asset we've got. It's beautiful. You know, you guys talk about all these festivals that we have and stuff. Have we ever had a Lake Auburn festival? Have we ever celebrated the lake? I don't think so. I just don't think you put enough importance into safeguarding our great asset, the lake. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this?
Deb Desjardins, 2768 Turner Road. I was at the planning meeting a couple of weeks ago. I've lived in the same house for 36 years. My in-laws, the family, still owns a camp on the Spring Road. It'll ever be the Spring Road to me. You can name it whatever you want, but it's going to be Spring Road. 35 years ago, we read the water district's plan on the lake. Their plan at that time was to take over properties up to and including 1 mile from the lake. 1 mile. As properties no longer could be passed, particularly the ones at the lake, that are right along the lake, the water district took them over if they weren't passed on in the family. And I can appreciate that. Very difficult to maintain them and maintain or making sure that people are taking care of those properties because they're right on the edge of the lake. Obviously, through 35 years, people have determined that that's a little unreasonable. The city can't afford to take over that much property. When we were at the meeting, they were talking about, and I mean, I've read all the stuff in the papers, I haven't done research, but I consider myself a knowledgeable person who lives near Lake Auburn. I pass by it at least twice a day, it seems. And we are reducing that watershed line from 1 mile to 200 or 300 feet to now less than 200, or what is it, 150 feet? And then you've got a 100-foot easement that has to go along it that nobody can build in, if I understand that properly from the meeting. There is a pit there that's being used for gravel, and they are blasting. I don't know that there's anybody in this country that could tell you whether or not that's going to create a problem for the lake, and particularly the area that they're looking at to move closer to the lake. The other thing is, it occurred to me after the meeting, and I actually called Friday, I've never seen a watershed line for Lake Auburn. Ever. I see them for, need my help for my
Taylor
husband.
Pond.
Taylor Pond, thank you. I had a little problem with my memory. Taylor Pond all the time. And in light of that, then there's a concern because now you're going to have the state involved with that, because if you're considering the distance, that means they're going to have to use a low salt area on Route 4. But down at the end of the street, Gary Street, there's 2 houses. Gammon Landscape owns the property behind it,
Ma'am,
and there's a stream.
We have to, I'm sorry, but thank
Yeah.
you very much for just
But
access
please,
time.
don't pass it tonight. Please postpone it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Mike Willett. I live on West Auburn Road. I have lived at that location for 18 years in LA all my life. Past Lake Auburn Water Protection Commissions closed half of the lake to recreation, purchased land around the lake from development, lengthened the intake pipe to 1,000 feet, algae bloom response and forestry management to protect the lake has now suddenly changed in the last 6 years. It is funny how those uninformed residents before you seem to have a different perspective than our current board does. I feel the development of the sand pit will threaten the water quality of the lake, and saying that it's the best thing for the lake on the closed intake side doesn't meet the straight face test. The pit map that depicts the water flow in the watershed is also suspect. It depicts the north slope water positively going back uphill, but it's not definitive on the south end and needs more research. All the land on that side of the road slopes toward the lake, which means the top water flows towards the lake and out the outlet. I have never had a problem with my well water, ever. This spring, my neighbor clear-cut a lot next to me, forestry management, I was told, into what was always landlocked property, but it now has been cleared to Lost Valley. Since then, I have spent a few $1,000s on filtration and now have a yearly upkeep cost. The photo shows a road construction off Young Corners Road near Lapham Stream that flows into Taylor Pond. This is also being considered for rezoning. It's a road. Again, I was told forestry management, even though the planning board has walked all of it. This area is 120 acres that was once landlocked from development, considered wetlands, not anymore. A road can now loop around Young's Corner to West Auburn Road. There are some needed changes that I agree with, but there are plenty of land to develop. We can't blame Turner or Poland for what Auburn's responsible for. Point being, why are we so hell-bent on changing the zoning around the water supply or wetlands that will affect Lake Auburn and Taylor Pond? I never thought I'd need a filtration system. Don't be fooled that Auburn won't too. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that'd like to speak on this ordinance?
Good evening. My name is Fred Holler. I live at 352 West Auburn Road. Been there for 47 years, which is just across the road, is right on the edge of the lake. It's downhill from our property to the lake. This has been going on for 2 years, this argument about whether to rezone. We've seen the signs, Save the Lake. We've seen the petitions, which have been thwarted. by maneuvering of the issues. We've seen the attendance at these hearings and planning meetings by the citizens. It's pretty obvious that the citizens of Auburn regard this as a threat to the lake, a threat to their drinking water. We've seen how Lewiston has been ignored in this whole issue and resulting in a lawsuit. It goes on and on. We've seen the maneuvering of this committee, this council, of late night votes, issues that get rewritten and redone, machinations all over the place. This is not, in my backyard, an issue. This is an issue that is being brought to you in many different ways by the citizens of Auburn. They don't want their lifestyle changed. They don't want their water polluted. What they want is a lack of this whole rezoning of our whole city. This is an issue of development, unbridled development, possibly. We know what's going on. There's just, it's like you guys have been taken over by the developers. And the citizens are just left to watch what's happening. I think that passing this resolution would be unfair to the people who put you in office, and I do regard you highly as members of our community who have sacrificed. It's a great sacrifice for you to be involved in city government. You deserve all the accolades. But I would encourage you to not call this an in my backyard issue. This is an issue for all the citizens of Auburn, Maine. It's a great place to live. Don't ruin it.
Is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak on this? And let me remind you, this is specifically an ordinance about the general business rezoning.
Good evening. My name is John Cleveland. I live at 183 Davis Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind the council that this proposed zoning that you have before you was the subject of a repeal referendum, as you remember. More than 2,100 signatures or citizens of Auburn signed that petition, and according to all of the procedures and requirements of the Charter and Article 9, to repeal the general business zoning that was previously passed. The petition was certified by the city clerk as being sufficient and came before this council. The council had the opportunity, two choices. You could put it out to vote and let the voters decide, or you could repeal it yourself. The council chose not to put it out to vote, and this council, all of you, voted to repeal the general business district, and it reverted back to Agriculture and Resource Protection District as it was previously zoned to do. That happened on September 6, 2022, last fall. That vote had exactly the same effect as if it had gone to the public for a repeal. The effect of that repeal is exactly the same. So, per the city charter in Article 9, the city council now has no authority to ignore their repeal of that ordinance and just simply reimpose the general business district that the petitioners asked to repeal and you agreed with, and you did. There was no provision for you to reinstate something that was just done. If that existed, Article 9 would be absolutely meaningless. Why would anyone go forward with a referendum if the council could just simply later on decide we ignore the repeal and we're going to do it anyways? Consequently, this ordinance is not properly before you tonight, and you really only have one choice: to vote no, to sustain your repeal that you did back in September of 2022. I hope you do that.
And folks on the council, we'll get clarification on the actual language when they're quoting charter. We'll do that during debate, but there is another section.
Stephen Beal, 575 Johnson Road. While I agree in general with the statements that all of the prior speakers have made regarding the public's desire not to have the area between Gracelawn Road and the lake rezoned, and while I recognize that this is only the area that is to be now outside a new watershed boundary midway between the lake and Gracelawn Road, I have a specific concern that relates to a part of this parcel, these parcels, which is, I believe, a public health and safety concern. When the council voted to rezone the area in March of last year to general business and moving the watershed boundary way up close to the lake, on the motion of Councilor Staples, which was very well thought and made, which was then unanimously passed, there was excluded from the rezoning the Gracelawn landfill parcel, which is at 159 Gracelawn Road, owned by the city, and a 100-foot buffer around that particular parcel in order to provide access to the backsides of the parcel. That copy of this document, I believe, has been emailed to you. Now, those landfill parcels in this area are not just one single lump. It is a series of at least 3 different parcels. It's tough to tell from an aerial photo, but the tops of these parcels are right about on a level with Gracelawn Road. The roads that run in and around them are accessible by bucket loaders and vehicles of that sort, and they're 70 feet below the level of the tops of these parcels. The sides are steep. There are methane pipes sticking out all over the place. It would be highly desirable if there is any rezoning to be done, whether tonight or at any other time, that the landfill parcel and the 100-foot buffer are restricted, are removed from the area to be rezoned. I should clarify that. The landfill parcel per se is not the subject of the proposed rezoning, but the 100-foot buffer would be. And I urge you to retain that 100-foot buffer around the landfill parcel to provide access in case there's some kind of an accident of any sort in any of those landfill parcels. Thank you.
Good evening. Bruce Ryu, 85 Mary Carroll Street. It has become public knowledge that if this is changed to general business, that the contractor plans to build about 1,200 housing units in this area. So if 2 or 3 people live in each housing unit, you're talking about potentially 3,000 people that will be living within 300 or 400 feet of the lake. So I would just ask you, think to yourself, if 3,000 people live within 300 feet of the lake, within 1,000 feet of the intake pipe of the water that we drink every day, do you really think that the science is protecting the lake? Because you guys are all about the science. And do you think that science of having 3,000 people within that close proximity of our intake pipe and our lake is protecting the lake? Think about that before you vote.
My name is Pam Russo, 745 West Auburn Road. I just have 2 comments. One, first of all, we'll be taking more land out of the agricultural zone, which we should be saving. And the second part is that when that's built up, there has been no studies at all about what would be as far as the land and what's put in there, only of what is there at this moment right now. So you can't tell me that you can predict what would happen if the development went in, because you don't know.
Okay, this time I'm going to bring it back, seeing nobody else in line, bring it back to the council. A couple things. It's my job under the charter to inform the city council of information that's pertinent to your decision making. Going back over a year ago to this petition that was signed by over 2,000 people, that compels the city council to do one of 2 things: let it go to a vote, or repeal the ordinance. We repeal the ordinance. There is nothing in the charter saying we can't bring this back up at a later time. And in fact, if one would make that interpretation, this zoning change is substantially different than the zoning change that the petition was taken out on. Last I knew, we could not use referendums to decide scientific fact. So that's one of the reasons multiple studies were commissioned after the fact. There's a lot of other things in there, and I feel bad for everyone. I really, truly do, because the amount of research done by dozens and hundreds of individuals, both with us in the city of Lewiston, Lake Auburn Watershed Protection, third-party scientists from the University of Maine, to FB Environmental, to CDM, have come to this conclusion, and it's been vetted and approved by the Maine Drinking Water Association, or Maine Drinking Water Program in Augusta. So on this ordinance, I just want to make sure that we're all kind of re-clarifying, restating some of the facts and the time frame that's been spent on this, or the time and energies. So that said, I'll turn it over to the council for debate or discussion or questions. Mr. Cousins, I don't know if you could come up just in case there's a question for you. Is there any debate, discussion?
Yeah.
Questions for Mr. Cousins? Councilor Staples.
Yeah, I've got one. Actually, that was a good reminder from Mr. Beal. I remember on the last time we talked about this issue, there was a motion to exclude the landfills. So I'll make that again. I'd like to make a motion to exclude the landfills on 159 Grace Lawn Road plus 100 feet around them from the proposed amendment.
I have a motion right now on the floor to amend the motion to remove the the Auburn landfill plus a 100-foot buffer. Is there any rationale in the 100-foot buffer?
To be able to make sure you access the landfill from all around it.
If I could make a friendly suggestion on that, making the motion to exclude the landfill, a lot of that discussion on access instead will be done at potentially a PUD approval process within the planning board.
Yeah, that's fair.
It might be more exact that way. Okay. So I got a motion on the floor to exclude landfill. Councilor Staples, are you okay with my friendly amendment to that on the 100-foot buffer?
Could I ask Mr. Cousins about that and what your thoughts are on that one?
We looked at the 100-foot buffer. Right now, there is a shared city access and private access to the Gendron pits that is within that 100-foot buffer, and I think the city access to the landfill is actually partly on the landfill property, but the Gendron access is on Gendron's parcel just outside. It would, I guess if we had that buffer, we would have to figure out whether or not that makes it necessary to get rid of those access points, or if we just can't use them for future development. My guess is the city would still have an access point within that area, and we might make the planning board create a second access point. I guess from a staff perspective, we were hoping that there could eventually be one access point on the public road, and then the city access would split off of that potential new roadway, but be where the existing access ways are within that 100 feet, but not on top of the landfill, outside of the landfill parcel. So we, as staff, didn't recommend that 100-foot buffer last time, and wouldn't this time, but it's certainly an option if the council wants that.
Okay, I'll take that out of the amendment. I think you're right. I mean, in the planning process, we'll address that if needed.
Yep. So I have a motion on the floor right now to exclude the landfill from the zoning. Do I have a second? No second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I've got a second. I'll ask for any debate on the motion to amend. Is there any debate to exclude the landfill, i.e. the city dump that's capped next to the lake, from this zoning change? None. I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of Councilor Staples' motion to amend, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Passes. Motion to amend, vote of 4-3. Okay. City-owned, the city-owned parcel. Okay, we're back to the initial motion as amended by Councilor Staples, excluding the dump. Is there any other comment, discussion, debate before I ask for a roll call vote? None being? Counselor. You got Sue. Wait, I'm sorry, Councilor Moore, did you have something to say or no? Sue?
Counselor Staples?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Whiting? No. Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Morin?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
No.
Order passes by a vote of 4-3. Okay. Next is ordinance 28-11202023.
Or 27.
Got it. Next is ordinance 27-11202023. Thank you. Amending the Auburn zoning map to reflect the actual drainage boundary based on existing topography of the land and known groundwater flows. This is a public hearing and second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Staples, second by Councilor Moore. Open this up to the public. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? Please step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. None being, I'll bring it back to the council. Council? None being, I'll bring it back to the council. Council, is there any discussion, debate on this? None being? Now I'll ask for a roll call vote. Sue?
Counselor Staples?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Whiting?
Yes.
Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Morin?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
This passes by a vote of 6-1. Next is ordinance 28-11202023, which is amending the Chapter 60, Article 7, Division 4, Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District pertaining to animal farms, agricultural buffer strips, septic system buffer strips, and private sewage disposal systems, and subsurface wastewater standards and requirements. This is a public hearing and a second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilor Moore, second for Councilor Staples. Open this up to the public. Anybody from the public that would like to speak on this? Please step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. I also will state that we do have in front of us, as passed out earlier, from Representative Shaw, a memorandum from the Natural Products and Agricultural Work Group explaining thought process.
Thank you
Right
very
there.
much. You do have in front of you a letter that I passed out earlier today. My name is Kathy Shaw. I live at 1200 Soapers Mill Road in Auburn, Maine, and I'm the chair of the Natural Products and Agriculture Working Group. In this petition that you're talking, or this ordinance change you're talking about tonight, it refers to non-hobby agricultural farms within the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District. That applies to almost 5,000 acres that would be essentially, according to this language, prohibited from any non-farm agricultural activity, which could mean that there could be no maple syruping, no beekeeping, no woodlot cutting, or actually firewood cutting, no-till garden. This really would take a lot of small, non-invasive farming operations out of contention, completely prohibited. And this evening, I'm asking you to set aside this section of the language to have a little more time to look at it in a more detail. Thank you.
My name is Pam Russo, 745 West Auburn Road. I want to reiterate what you said. I'm also on the Ag Working Group, that there are a lot of things that are don't necessarily fit in this particular wording. So I ask you not to make it only new non-hobby farm motion BC as of January 23rd, where there could be no non-hobby. Now, you can go on and read that, and I looked at it like 3 or 4 times. This includes hydroponics, mushrooming, microgreens, I mean, things that don't even necessarily have to be in the ground. I just wanted you to know that the Maine's Natural Resource Council can help farmers with grants and educations to prevent runoff from getting into the lake, even with farm animals. The one thing that really confused me, and maybe I read it wrong, but I don't think so, it said that even for the hobby farms that the Lake Auburn Water Protection Committee had to approve even hobby things in this area. And I read it twice, so I don't think I'm wrong. So I'm thinking, if the Lake Auburn Water Protection Committee must approve even hobby farms, does this even make sense? They don't even meet every month. And do they have the expertise to know about Maine's Natural Resource Council programs? Or are they familiar with what other states and towns are doing? So I just thought that was awfully very weird too. So I think this needs to be set aside and re-looked at. Thank you.
Again, my name is John Cleveland. I live at 183 Davis Avenue. This particular item has at least a half a dozen major changes in the ordinances, and frankly, 3 minutes is an impossibility to rationally address them. So instead, what I want to do is bring to your attention this letter that I found in the 333 page of this agenda that perhaps you saw, but I'd like to bring it to your attention and also to the attention of the folks who didn't have a chance to read 333 pages. So this letter is from administration from the city of Lewiston, Maine. It's referred to as settlement offer via electronic mail. I'm going to just read the last paragraph of it because it addresses all of these at one time. It says, Lewiston is prepared to support the proposed ordinances as drafted if Auburn observes a process that allows enough time for the drinking water program to meaningfully consider each proposed ordinance change to respond to them. It covers all of these. It goes on to say, I hope Auburn sees this offer as intended. Lewiston respects Auburn's home rule authority, but given the high stakes, parentheses, potential loss of waiver, unparentheses, needs to ensure that the recommendations drafted by Auburn staff and signed by an Auburn counselor has meaning. As such, it requests that Auburn allow enough time for the drinking water program to meaningfully consider each proposed ordinance change and to respond to the proposed change. While my counsel and I seek agreement, the lawsuit was filed due to an enormous stakes that could follow as ill-considered ordinance, parentheses. As you know, if the waiver is lost, Auburn consultant estimated that the total annualized cost of construction, operation, and maintenance for a new filtration plant is more than $3 million a year. Please contact me if you have any questions. I hope you consider this request.
Well, I'm back. Bruce Ryu, 85 Mary Carroll Street. Did you know that the Auburn Water District is 100 years old? It was formed in 1923. And I was a trustee for about 21 years after I was appointed by the City Council, as Mr. Milk says, to be the representative on the Auburn Water District. And in 2008, we had this same, basically the same proposal before the council and the planning board to change septic ordinances. Now, the district's 100 years old, and for 96 years, if Lake Auburn was in an Auburn City Council agenda, or Lake Auburn was on an Auburn Planning Board agenda, the superintendent of the water district sat right there, and the microbiologist that measures the clarity and the filtration process in the water sat right there. And they answered the questions about the science that goes on at Lake Auburn. And during the mayor's first 2 years, they were there. During the last 4 years, this is the first time I've seen our superintendent attend one of these meetings. first time. And he's not sitting in the chair answering the questions. So if this is about science, why don't we have the people who work the science every single day by looking at the clarity of the water? Why can't we ask them the questions, is there a septic problem at Lake Auburn? Will additional development pollute our water? Why don't we get the people that are scientists sitting there so that we can ask them the questions and get the correct answers? Right now, we're getting them from developers.
No, you're not.
And I'm not trusting their answers.
That's freaking
Thank you.
Come on.
Stephen Beal, 575 Johnson Road. Once again, I have a specific issue with the package of proposed ordinances, which, as Mr. Cleveland has stated, are lumped together, several different ordinances that really should have been presented separately so that there could be adequate time given to each. But I want to address the septic design change, which was originally going to be paired or coupled with the ordinance which you've already enacted tonight, increasing the minimum lot size from 1 to 3 acres for a buildable lot in the watershed by changing rural residential to low-density country residential. Mr. Blay of the planning staff has done a lot of work in this area, and I've talked with him and other members of the planning staff extensively over the last year and a half or so. Mr. Blay's final report, or staff report on this subject, was on October 11, 2022. I believe you've been provided that by email. And that basically shows that by virtue of adopting the zoning change, increasing the minimum lot size, instead of there being potentially 41 new residential units built in the watershed over the next 25 years, there would be only 20. On the other hand, by adopting the septic design change, if you did that alone, that would increase the number of buildable lots by 70. If you combine the two together, that would still create an increase in the number of buildable lots by 38, which is virtually unchanged from the number that are projected to be built if there was no action taken. The number if no action was taken is 41. The number if both changes were adopted is 38. It's virtually a wash. If this council really wants to do something for the benefit of the Lake Auburn watershed in controlling effluent flows in the watershed, I have no objection and endorse the passage of the new chamber or mound system which is proposed in the ordinance. That's fine. It does make more efficient use of soils, but it does virtually nothing to reduce the number of buildable lots. If you want to make the ordinance effective, the thing to do would be to pass this septic design ordinance, but put a cap on the number of permits would be issued in this 25-year projected build-out period to the 20 units that would be achieved solely by increasing the minimum lot size. In other words, 20 is a significantly lesser number than the 41, which would be built if nothing happens, or 38 if both ordinances were to be adopted. So I urge you to adopt the septic design ordinance, but with a cap of 20 permits to be issued over a 25-year period. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to bring this back to the council. There's a lot of unpack here.
Thank you. David Griswold, 199 Gamage Avenue. I have some comments that I want to make concerning the language about the non-hobby agriculture and expansion or lack of expansion. The intent is good, but it's very confusing, particularly when there's a blanket statement about other agricultural purposes. That's open-ended. That could cover any number of things. So I started to look and see what might fall under that category. And I went to the Maine Revenue Services Sales, Fuel, and Special Tax Division Instructional Bulletin number 61, revised May 11, 22, which states, commercial agriculture production means commercial production of crops, including seeds, maple syrup, honey, plants, trees, compost, and livestock. And then it goes on to say commercial agriculture production includes the cultivation and harvest of cannabis plants by cultivation facilities. Possibly rather than make a blanket prohibition of other agricultural activities, the council should consider stating what would be allowed. There are certainly low-impact activities such as the ones that Representative Shaw pointed out that do not have a big impact on the lake if managed properly. There's language in the text that allows spreading and disposal of manure in conformance to the DACF regulations and guidelines. I don't know whether that's a remnant of an earlier edition or whether it was left in there on purpose, but it's a good example of requiring practitioners to use BMP's guidelines and regulations to manage their activities. And perhaps if there are other items that could be added back in other than non-hobby, some of those same sort of prohibitions could be, or requirements could be thrown in there. There are guidelines around. I know there are forest management BMPs that are aimed at preventing any soil at all from reaching a water body. Spent 20 years promoting that. The other point I want to make about the manure disposal is that it's allowed. It's not prohibited. It would seem like the argument for animals is largely based on the manure situation, but the way the text is written, it appears to me that manure could be brought into Auburn from other locations and spread as long as it followed state guidelines and regulations. But new farms that might have animals would not be allowed. Does that make sense? The
Thank you very
agricultural
much,
buffer
sir.
strip's been...
Sir, thank you. You're over 3 minutes, well over 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you.
I urge you to take it back to the drawing board and,
Thank you.
and get it right. Vote no.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this topic? None being, I will bring this back to the council this time. There's a lot to unpack here. I will also remind the council and during your deliberations that we do have an order. Actually, it's resolve later on in this agenda. Hold on, the number is, I had the wrong one. Excuse me, order number 16, which directs the planning board to review specifically this order within 6 months. I'd highly recommend that during that review, they actually look at farming. I'm very, very sympathetic with some of this language, but I also know any substantial changes to an ordinance after being vetted by planning board could be problematic, especially when we do have a mechanism for further review within 6 months. So I will say that. Is there any other debate, comments, questions? You got Mr. Cousins here. You got Mr. Broadbent in the audience. I got to say this. I have never had a personal conversation with Mr. Broadbent ever, and maybe one day we will, but I never wanted to cross that boundary. And I believe that him and working with the water trustees and Councilor Milks, the scientist, the city of Lewiston, and everybody else gave us the best possible outcome and memorandums from Mr. Broadbent. I'll turn it over to Councilor Milks if you want to have anything to add.
No, I know that I'm in support of continued protection in the lake. I'm in support of the septic design. The board is. This has been vetted through a ad hoc committee. All these changes, both Lewiston, Auburn, Turner representatives, and it was unanimous. And we are in support of these of this ordinance.
Any other comments, Councilor Staples?
Yeah, while we have Mr. Cousins here, I was wondering if maybe you could go over the hobby farm that's been brought up by so many people and just kind of explain the logic there.
So we were working with the city attorney on how to differentiate from a farm where somebody might produce their own food or have a small number of animals or crops for recreation or enjoyment. Doesn't necessarily have to be for food. It could include horses, could include goats that are pets. The way that we differentiated from a commercial farm that would be larger scale and more likely to have an impact on water quality was to define this much smaller farm and make that allowed, a hobby farm that's really for the use, enjoyment, or food production of the resident. And then anything above that, larger than that, that would have larger animal populations for commercial purposes, larger tilled fields for commercial purposes, those would not be allowed under the changes. We knew that we had to allow for subsistence food production. The Constitution of Maine was amended to require that. We didn't think that that's what the council and planning board were trying to prohibit, that somebody couldn't have a garden or a small number of animals on their residential lot, so that's where we drew that line. In the text that was drafted for public hearing, that's certainly not to say that, as David Griswold had said, there are best management practices for different uses, forestry, agriculture, that can be employed, and if done properly and well, can really minimize any potential impacts or eliminate potential impacts. It sounds like some people in the audience tonight feel that these changes are too restrictive towards agriculture. We're certainly happy to work with the Ag Natural Products Group over time to see if there's some better distinction of those uses that could be added to the hobby farm, or a new category. Maple syruping, as an example, can be done with little to no impact on water quality. So we had to distinguish between a small sort of home hobby farm type operation in order to prohibit the commercial operations that we understood the council was most concerned about. There's certainly room for continued discussion on those things.
Councilor Milks?
Question, so could someone on a hobby farm have maple syrup?
Sure.
And
Yes.
can you do firewood
Yep, you can still do forestry activities.
and mushrooms?
You could certainly do that as a hobby farm. It would just be if it got to a larger commercial scale that you wouldn't be able to under that, the way
Okay.
that the ordinance is drafted.
And can they have a garden, self-sustaining garden?
Yes.
Tilled?
Yep.
Okay.
The key is that it's not for commercial purposes, and that what they propose is found to not be a concern for water impacts by the district.
And then berry and fruit farming?
At a hobby scale, yes. Or if there are existing farms, they could continue to operate as farms, which we have a number of in the watershed already.
Okay. And we can amend this ordinance in the future if necessary.
If there were specific uses that the council wanted to add back in over time, that could certainly be considered.
Thank you.
And there is an order later
later on.
tonight that will set up a mechanism for that.
Is there any other questions? Anybody want to argue for or against this? This is second read. Excuse me.
I'd like to make a motion to table for referral to the Natural Products and Agricultural Work Group.
I'll second it.
I have a motion on the floor to table this and send this to the Natural Products Work Group for further work.
Not to a time specific.
No, it's a permanent table. Okay, we got a table on the floor. It's a privileged motion. All those in favor of tabling this, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Fails 4-3. Okay, original motion's on the floor. Is there any other debate? If not, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. None being, Sue?
Counselor Staples?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Whiting?
No.
Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Morin?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Passes 5-2. Okay, we're going to move on to new business. I am going to bring forth 3 items.
I need to leave. My ride for Boston is here. I have a doctor appointment
Okay,
at 8
you're
o'clock
excused.
tomorrow.
Absolutely, safe travels. Don't forget your, leave it there. Leave it there. I know who sits here on Wednesday. That will be funny.
Can we take 5 minutes?
At this time, I'd like to take a call, just a 5-minute recess. on Order 152-1204-2023, which is reappointing Riley Bergeron to the Planning Board full member position with a term of expiration of 01/01/2027, as nominated by the Appointment Committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Moore, and second by Councilor Hawes. Okay, is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this appointment? No, none being, we're going to bring it back to the council. Council, this was Councilor Whiting, open it up to you if I remember correctly.
It's just a process issue. I don't have anything against any of the candidates. I just feel it's really within the purview of the incoming council, so I'm going to abstain on all of these votes.
Okay, is there any other comment on Mr. Mr. Bergeron, excuse me. Mr. Riley. None being, I'll ask for a vote at this time. All those in favor of Riley Bergeron, please raise your hand. I'm sorry, keep them up. Okay, opposed? Abstain? Passes by a vote of 5-0-1 with one abstention. That's Councilor Whiting. Okay. Next is reappointment of Evan Sear to the Planning Board, full member position with a term of expiration of 01/01/2027, as nominated by the Appointment Committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Councilor Walker. Okay. Anybody from the public like to comment on this?
Renee Cody again from Dobbs Avenue. I'd like to just repeat what Councilor Whiting said about really that shouldn't be within the purview of this council. This is a 4-year appointment for a person who's, obviously supported an agenda that the public did not, as evidenced by the election results. So I just don't think it's within your purview, and I don't think it should be addressed at this time. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the public? None being. Bring back the council. Council? None? Okay. Ask for a vote. All those in favor of reappointing Evan Sear to the Planning Board, full membership, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstain. Passes 5-0-1. Next is Order 154-1204-2023, appointing Stephen Roop to the Planning Board full member position with a term expiration of 01/01/2027, as nominated by the Appointment Committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Staples, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Hawes. We did receive communication earlier today that that Mr. Roop did not wish to be considered for the position at this time. We do have to bring it up. It is an order. Do I have a motion at this time?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to appoint Timothy DeRoche, who's currently associate member on the planning board, and promote him to full member in place of Mr. Stephen Roop.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilor Hawes. Anybody in the public like to speak on this? No, I'm bringing it back to the council. One question I have. Did Mr. DeRoche apply?
He applied.
He did apply for a full?
He did apply for a full membership.
Is there any comments? None being? Okay, this will open up, by the way, an associate position that will have to be filled in January by the incoming council. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Passes 5-0-1.
Point of order. We just voted on the amendment, but we didn't vote on the order.
Wow, sharp as a tack again, as always. Councilor Staples, thank you. Now we have a motion on the floor that has been amended for Tim DeRoche versus Mr. Steve Roop. Any debate on the motion as amended? None being, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Passes 5-0-1. Thanks, Councilor Staples. I appreciate that. Okay, we're back on to new business now as in the agenda. First, we have a public hearing on the CDBG plan year 23. This is a revised budget and action plan. All this is a public hearing. There will be no action. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this? None being, I will now close the public hearing. Next is Order 157-1204-2023, authorizing the school committee to establish a curriculum development reserve fund for the purpose of funding curriculum development, materials, equipment, software, and professional development. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor Moore, and second for Councilor Hawes. Open this up to the public for comment. If anybody in the public would like to speak, just to refresh your memories, this was an initiative that I had as a city member of the curriculum committee because we didn't have curriculum for like the previous 20 years. We finally established curriculum across the grade levels. It's working. And we want to make sure and ensure that that is fully funded. These funds are coming from the school's fund balance, which is earmarked for education. Is there any comment, questions? Nope. Okay, ask for a vote at this time. Show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? None being passed is 6-0. No, none on this. Just trying to catch me in my last meeting, making another mistake. Next is Order 158-12042023, authorizing the naming of Officer Norman Philbrick Square, or Philbrick Square. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Councilor Walker, second by Councilor Haas. Open this up to the public for comment. Any members of the public like to speak, please step up to the podium. Just refresh our memory. Officer Philbrick passed in the line of duty many years ago. I'm not sure if we have a picture of this or a description, but this was vetted by the naming ad hoc committee, Councilor Moore and Councilor Whiting. This would be the location where Bud Forum is on the corner of Main Street and Court Street. Okay, renaming that. It has no name, and it is city-owned property. Okay. Any questions, comments? No? I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? None being passes 6-0. Thank you. I know Rita's been in touch with their family too, so this is great. Next is Order 159-12042023, authorizing the naming of Mustang Alley. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Councilor Walker, second by Councilor Moore, and open this up to the public for conversation. I'm not sure if we have a picture of that too. We had some pictures that we reviewed. I'm not sure if it made it into the... I will describe this, you will all know, and it's something that we can do here to kind of memorialize Central Maine Community College, home of the Mustangs, and kind of show how important and how much of a college town we're entering into, or becoming, I should say, with CMCC's growth. This is a street that currently has no name, that runs from Kings Avenue, or King Street, in front of Norway Savings Bank Arena, all the way out to, well, where the TJ Maxx Mall is. I'm not sure what the name of that, the plaza. Auburn Plaza, thank you. It has no name. It kind of plays well, and the committee and we decided that this was an appropriate naming, so hopefully you can actually have some of the recognition for the college on the end of that street. So we're looking forward to it. So Mustang Alley, kind of a play off. Who's a musician of the group? Was that Mustang Sally? Yeah. Yeah, you know you want to sing it. Any comments or finishing verses? Yes, Councilor Staples.
Yeah, actually, I probably should ask this for the last one, but are we going to have some sort of a plaque or a sign or some sort of something signifying the new names? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, if you look further down the agenda when we're looking at memorials and funds, there's some funds there. There's also naming funds too, and we'll leave it up to the next council to really determine what that looks like and how that's recognized, but and obviously incorporate some of Central Maine Community College folks into it as well. Okay. All those in favor? Passes 6-0. Mustang Alley lives. Next is Order 160-12042023, authorizing the naming of Joseph Joe Walker Memorial Field, or Walker Field. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion from Councilor Walker and a second from Councilor Milks. Yeah. On that one. So I'll open this up to the public for comment. Any members of the public like to speak, please step up to the podium. This in the following order. I'll bring it back to the council now. This is the following order. Give you a little background. And this has all been vetted and approved unanimously by the Mayor's Ad Hoc Committee on Naming. We had two victims from October 25th that lived in Auburn. We had obviously Joe Walker and we had Tricia Aslin. Both were very avid softball players. And in Tricia's case, she was actually the first female to play in Boys Little League in Maine history. I learned that at her funeral. I've talked to family members. I'll let Leroy talk about this one specifically now, and we'll finish this on the next order too. But Councilor Walker, did you have anything to add?
I'd like to say that I know if my son was standing here, he'd be some proud of this. He spent many years playing at Pettingill Park softball. He started when he was 16 years old, and he played until he was 50. And he played many games in Auburn. And Pettingill Park, of course, has always been the big park that everybody enjoyed playing in. So thank you, everybody. It's an honor, and It hit home, sorry.
Any other comments? Debate? Counselor Morton?
I'd just like to say that I had the privilege of playing with Counselor Walker's son, Joey, many, many times over many years in many different locations. And in the softball community, that Pettingill Park is kind of the gold standard when it comes to fields. So when we saw this come up in the ad hoc committee, it was something that we felt very strongly about and something we're proud of, and just was something right to do for Joey Walker's memory, but also Counselor Walker and the whole Walker family.
This time I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor of renaming Pettingill, and this is the upper field, All those in favor again, I'm sorry. Passes 6-0.
Walker Field.
Walker Field. Next is Order 161-1204-2023, authorizing the naming of the Tricia Aslan Memorial Field, or Aslan Field. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Counselor Staples, Counselor Milks with the second. Open this up to the public for comment, if anybody in the public would like to speak. No, this is going to be the lower field. This is the second part of that thought process that I had one Sunday. And looking at both of them, and I'm not sure why, I just kept thinking about their commonalities, the fact that we had two unnamed fields. And at this time, I'd like to thank Jeremy Gackham, city staff, for taking my text and phone call late on a Sunday saying, I just drove around and I can't find a name for these fields. Is there a name? And he's like, no, there's not. And if you remember, this council 2 years, maybe it was the previous council about 3 years ago, paid for the conversion of the lower field from baseball to softball, fully state-of-the-art lit, same as the upper field, if you went to the Walker Field now. Bleachers, dugouts, press box, so forth. It's a great field. And it's a nice facility. We had 2 victims, both really engaged in athletics, specifically softball and baseball, both from Auburn. And we had 2 fields that are in close proximity to each other. So I think this is fitting, and I really do hope that, for generations, as we like to say, may their memories be eternal, and I think this will help. Any comments or thought on this before we close it up? Yeah, ask for a vote. All those in favor of renaming the lower field to the Aslan Field, please raise your hand. Passes 6-0. Next is Order 162-12042-023, which is allocating funds from Comprehensive Plan Implementation Fund of up to $160,000 for the replacement structure for R&K properties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Staples, Milks, open this up to the public for comment. Anyone in the public like to comment on this? None being. Bring it back, council. Anything? Nothing? I'll ask for a vote at this time. Show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? None. 6-0. Passes. Next is Order 163-12042-023, approving the tax increment financing TIF District Number 31, Academy Street. It's a public hearing and a vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Staples, second by Councilor Hawes. Open this up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? If so, step up to the podium. Okay, none being, I'll bring back to the council. Council, is there any discussion on this? Questions? We do have Glenn Holmes here from Economic Development and Community Development. Anything? Councilor Whiting?
Just wanted to talk about the credit enhancement. One, I'm not convinced is a public benefit as defined by state law, but additionally, assuming the council supports it, I would like to see a limitation on the parking. My understanding is the parking would be paid for by the CEA. So could we put a restriction that if the parking is less than the amount that's listed, that that would be the amount that was in the credit enhancement agreement, as opposed to a higher amount that might not be necessary?
Like proration?
So
it's just, if there's a price put in there, and for 22 parking spaces, almost $1 million seems kind of high.
So that
it's not a parking garage, it's surface parking.
That does include the other off-site improvements that are needed along that road. It's not just those parking spots. So, our intent, we believe that estimate is actually low.
Another question, is this contingent on the street being converted to one-way traffic? It looked like the rendering appears to have.
It's part of the proposal. All of that will be decided by planning board through the planning process.
And there's a footnote in there. When we redid the comprehensive plan, we actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Staples, but we actually wrote in there the conversion of Academy Street to a one-way down, at least that lower portion of Academy Street. So it does marry up with the comp plan. Right, yeah, no right turn. We wanted a one-way down in order to promote some development there.
I remember we talked about that one for quite a while on a meeting. I can't remember if it ended up in there or not.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, we need to check it, but I'm pretty sure it did. It was like a one-line addition.
I guess my concern.
According to
with that
Eric,
is-
yes.
Oh, it was? Okay. Yeah.
My concern with this, all of this, is it's conjecture based on planning board approval and also neighborhood lack of opposition, which I think is going to be even greater than what we saw with the closure of Chestnut Street. I think there are a lot of people that didn't know about the 8-member comp plan committee meetings that might have been showing up and opposing the conversion of Academy Street to a one-way street.
Possible. Is there any other questions or comments? And again, the one caveat I will say is you're approving this, and I've been in these situations before, you're approving it so that it can go through, it's a but-for, correct, Glenn?
Correct.
In these
Basically, this
situations
can't
we've
move
seen
forward
here.
without the credit enhancement in place.
So without this, they wouldn't even get to the planning board. Work could still die.
It
if you
could still
would.
die. There's a lot of things that would be contingent on to make it actually go all the way through. And again, the credit enhancement is based on increased tax base, so therefore there's no money until then.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I think, looking through this and seeing what we've seen so far, I think this development looks like it's, as far as I can see, it's the best use of that land. I haven't seen any other proposals or can imagine anything that would make better use of that land at this point. I really think we should give this a shot and see where it goes.
Okay, no other conversations. This is a show of hands. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? One abstention, so, no, I got an abstention here. 4-1-1. Passes. Next is Order 164-1204-2023, approving the tax incremental financing district number 32, Mount Auburn Housing. It's a public hearing and vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Counselor Moore and Counselor Walker. Open this up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak on this? This is just a tax incremental financing package. There is no credit enhancement agreement. In other words, all tax dollars are captured and held in that TIF account for the City of Auburn. Any questions, comments, debates?
Yeah, looking on page 266, there's no officer listed, there's no principal owner's name, there's no address, there's no brief project description. I'm going to vote against incomplete application.
Can I respond?
Please.
Basically, because the developer is not involved in this project, it's strictly a city TIF, so therefore the developer isn't receiving anything, so therefore we're not able to collect any of that data, not required to.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's the first time I think we've had a TIF in several years without a CEA.
It's based on the amount of work that's been identified in that area that needs to be done for public safety and many other things.
Okay. I'm going to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-1. Next is Order 165-1204-2023, adopting the employment agreement between the City of Auburn and the City Manager, Phil Kroll Jr. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Staples, Councilor Walker. Open this up to the public. Anybody in the public like to speak? On Bing, I'll bring it back to the council. Council, any comment, questions? This will map up what you all agreed upon months ago. Okay, I'll ask for a vote at this time. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next is Order 166-1204-2023, approving the allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funds for the Powell Center. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Staples, Councilor Moore. Anybody in the public like to speak?
Maureen O'Brien, 42 Winter Street in Auburn. As I spoke earlier, we don't have a plan. We don't have a plan for what the money is going to go for. $9 million with no plan. We shouldn't be doing this. We're wasting our money without a plan. And I hope that you're not going to approve it.
Yeah, let the city manager, I mean, I've seen the plans, so we all have. So, Mr. Manager, if you could?
Sure, Council. Mayor and Council, so this has been brought before you already. A presentation was done before the City Council. Those documents are in that packet. I think what Ms. O'Brien is referring to, that was even earlier today, was that a FOA request form was requested by her to complete, which we do when there's requests that come in. But there is, we could go back and look at that. You've already seen that when this came back before you originally. This was the gym. Those were the schematics that were approved for the PAL Center. The full design and work is currently being done. I do not have those. They're not completed at this point. The designs know the budget for this project is $9 million. So that will be where they need to continue coming in. The original design estimates came in at $12 million. The PAL board and those representatives went back to them and said it needed to come in at $9 million. And so those adjustments continue to be made as they continue to work on this project. So you've seen what we have currently. Those further designs will be completed at a later time, much like the public safety building that was approved. Those will come back through as designs are completed and the further work is done. This allocation, as well as the undesignated fund balance allocation to this project, will complete the $9 million allocation that the council had been working on through either the congressional funds that came in, the $3 million, the original $3 million ARPA funds, and the $1.5 million through CIP funds.
Very good. Do we have any council debate, questions, comments?
Quick question for Phil. This is going to have to go to planning board, right? I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, ask for a vote at this time. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next is Order 167-1204-2023, authorizing the allocation of $1,823,255 from the fiscal year 22 undesignated fund balance that's in excess of the recommended 14% of our budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Staples, Councilor Hawes on the second. Open this up to the public for comment. Any members of the public that would like to speak, please step up to the podium and state your name and address.
Good evening again, Kathy Shaw, 1200 Cypress Mill Road, $1,828,000 from the undesignated fund balance. Where is that going? Thank you.
Okay, just to remind the council, this is all itemized within your packet, the amount and the location of where these funds are going. This is also spoke about or debated during our workshop a couple weeks ago.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to you and the council. I'd like to make the motion to allot $100,000 from the fund balance to conduct a security evaluation of our municipal buildings that public can access pretty much at any time they want.
I second.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor right now to allocate $100,000 from the undesignated fund balance to conduct a third-party security consult. Did I get that word correct? On all municipal buildings that are publicly accessible. Correct, Councilor Walker?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Do I have a second from Councilor Milks? I'll open this up to debate. Councilor Staples?
Yeah, so for clarification, the previous order was for $1,823,255. This motion would raise that and not reassign any of the other ones.
So
So,
it'd be an amendment?
It's an additional two. It's
Yep.
addition.
So it's
So-
amending the last one?
Yes, it's amending it.
1.9 is a...
1.923255, yes.
okay, okay.
Okay. And Councilor Walker did talk with me a little bit about this, and before going to the vote, I think it's a solid number. It's going to be up to the city manager, obviously, police and so forth to look at that. If it's not all spent, that will go back into the fund balance, okay? Or if it costs more, I think you can bring it up to the next council and evaluate that. Is there any debate, conversation on the amendment to the motion? Councilor Moore?
Municipal buildings, would that include public schools? Or just city administration properties?
Yeah, great question. I think the schools have done quite a bit of assessments of their facilities. They've had a third party come in, make recommendations for securing the facility, limiting access. But I can certainly have a conversation with the superintendent to see if there's still any gaps within their facilities as well.
And just to respond to that, I guess my primary concern at this point would be the new high school, so new. I don't know if that's gone through the same vetting that the other school properties have.
Yeah, I was part of some of that vetting. Yeah, it's very, very secure with the number of cameras, security protocols, even the way the interior windows are placed and how it's color coded, and what to do during an active shooter emergency. It's very well thought out and planned. Unfortunately, it has to be. Any other comment about this motion to amend? If not, I'm going to ask for a vote. All those in favor of the additional $100,000 from the fund balance to this expenditure for security screening, the motion to amend, yes. All those in favor, thank you. 6-0 passes. Okay. As amended. Now we still have to go back to the original motion.
I would ask, Mayor, for the council to consider, you've named several items, several locations rather, tonight for memorials and other naming. I would recommend, if the council has a desire to do this, to add $100,000 into a special revenue account for wayfinding signage. I think to make sure that we do the proper identification of these facilities, fields, and other locations, that we do it properly with the proper signage, and there's currently no budget for that.
This wouldn't be covered under the memorial budget that we set aside in this at $100,000?
That did not pass, that it was not brought forward under the workshop because this hadn't been brought forward yet.
I'd move to amend as noted by the city manager. And I would also note that that still leaves a couple $100,000, or well, maybe what? Yeah, it's some level, a couple $100,000 almost,
Extra.
Yeah.
Listen, we're still right at about 14%, which is the upward, the upward cap, if you would. So.
I'd like to second that.
Second, okay. We didn't have a second. So I got a motion, I got a second. Debate, discussion on this? None being? I'll ask for vote on the motion to amend, which is an additional $100,000 out of the undesignated fund balance, bringing the total to $2,023,255. Okay, all those in favor? It passes 6-0. Now we have an amended motion. We added $200,000 under the initial order that's on the packet tonight. Any debate on this motion as amended, or order as amended? None being, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, moving along. Okay, next is a resolution to resolve 03-12042023, calling upon the Auburn Water District and the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commissioners to begin the discussions of the towns in the upper watershed to adopt critical protections for Lake Auburn. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Moore, second by Councilor Walker. Open this up to the public for comment. Any members of the public would like to speak on this? None being, I'll bring it back to the council. And council, let me just reiterate, this is a resolve. We're not ordering, but this puts this council on record, post the votes on protecting Lake Auburn, to encourage Auburn Water District and LawPac and other organizations to extend the ordinances that we've passed into the upper watershed areas. Sorry, Turner and Buckfield. Mind it. Okay, no comment, no questions. Ask for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 6-0. Next is Order 168-1204-2023, approving the increase to EMS care and transport fees, with the first increase taking effect December 11th, 2023, and the second increase taking effect April 1, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Councilor Walker?
Second.
Second by Councilor Milks. Open this up to the public for comment. Any members of the public like to speak? If so, please step up to the podium. None being, bring it back to the council. Comment? Pretty standardized, get it done before the insurance deadline? No. Okay, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 6-0. Next is authorizing the city manager to execute the sale of 186 Main Street, parcel ID 231-020, city-owned property, to Great Falls Construction, DBA JCS 18 LLC. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Second. Walker, second by Councilor Moore, and open this up to the public for comment. Is there any? As a reminder, this is a vacant parcel that is currently right next to Roque Block, pretty darn close. It's been abated. We brought this up with regards to a TIF last meeting. Nothing. Okay, I'll come back to the council. Council? 5 years in the works on this one. Yeah. Okay. Here comes Mason's Brewery. All those in favor? Passes 6-0. Next is Order 170-1204-2023, directing a review of zoning ordinance text amendments relating to Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District, evidenced by Ordinance 28-1120-2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was Councilor Moore? Councilor Staples on the second, sorry about that. Open this up to the public for comment. This is another way for us to dot our i's, cross our t's. We'll send it back to planning board within 6 months. I think that's a good time to look at hobby farms and any adjustments to the septic that might need to be made. Okay? Comments? Bring it back here? Nothing? Ask for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? None being, passes 6-0. It's the last open session of the night. Members of the public are invited to speak to the council about any issue that was not covered under our agenda item, which is quite a bit. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, one final time. My name is Kathy Shaw, 1200 Soapers Mill Road, Auburn, Maine. I have wanted to say this for quite a while, and tonight is my final opportunity. Thank you, all of you. This is hard work. You've taken a lot on the chin. You've dealt out just as many punches as well. It has been an honor for me to get to know many of you and to work with some of you. I appreciate the time that you've put in. This isn't easy at all. One of the really amazing things that I do have to thank you all for is creating more community conversations, independent, small groups gathering to talk over some of these issues that they feel not listened to. I've met more people in the past 3 years, 4 years, neighbors that I've never met before, and I don't have many neighbors, but I've met more. And that to me means a lot, because people are standing up and saying, wait a minute, hold on. Can't we talk reasonably and come to some sort of group conclusion about the issues that affect this city? So again, thank you. I really and truly appreciate all of the effort, and good luck in the future. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in the last open session? None being, I'll close this open session. Don't let it go to your head. So let's bring this out to reports. Reports. I've got one updated report, if you would, but I'm going to wait till the end. Councilors, start here. Councilor Staples.
Yeah, hey, I just want to thank everybody for the last 2 years. You know, people out in the audience, people sitting up here. My favorite part of all of the talks that we've had has been how everything's been civil. We don't get up here and yell at each other. There's plenty of times when I've disagreed with probably every single person up here. and we've managed to talk it out. We've managed to come up with sometimes a better outcome than we could have had before, and I value that. So it's been great. I was talking to my wife this morning. As of tomorrow, it'll be the first time in 10 years that I haven't been sitting on a committee or a board or something for the city of Auburn. And I don't know how I feel about that. I think I'm looking for a little bit of a break, so that's kind of nice. But thank you all, and I'm sure we'll cross paths again in the future.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been here with us as well. It's been a great run here to be with you. I'm going to still go on. I had a lot of people in Ward 5 that voted for me, so I'll be here for 2 more years. Thank you to the voters. Thank you to our council. Thank you to the mayor, and we'll see you all around somewheres.
Probably the 2 most educational years I've had in my adult life. I came in a little naive, and to quote Mr. Griswold, it's been very interesting to see how the sausage actually has been made, because I had no clue. Now I've got a pretty good idea. I'll echo the sentiments from Councilor Staples. I appreciate the civility and the decency of everybody on the council. There's many people on this council I've disagreed with chronically, but I count everybody on this council a friend. It's been a privilege, and one of the things that I've really concluded from my 2 years as a city councilor is that Auburn is very fortunate to have the level of staff that actually do this as their day job, day in and day out. When I see what other municipalities have for a team, I'm really proud of city staff. So proud of the 2 years. It's been tough, taken a lot of lumps, but I really hope for success for the next council, because it's not easy. And now I can sit in the back row and throw peanuts and have opinions, and
You're too young to be a curmudgeon.
yeah, no, it's been good. I just when the council's successful, the city's successful. So best of luck to those of you that are moving on, and thank you for the time that of those that have their time coming to a close.
I want to thank all you guys. I've learned a lot from everybody up here, and it's a lot of different perspectives, and I like to listen and I like to learn. My dad told me as a kid, he said, the people you have to listen to are the people you disagree with, because the people you agree with, you already agree with them. And you're never going to learn anything if you don't listen to people that you disagree with. So, and I can tell you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your time here. You and I, people don't see it, but we've had plenty of disagreements on the phone over the years. But, I want to thank you and thank everybody here. And I'm looking forward to the next step forward. The people in Ward 3, I thank them very much for their vote and their confidence, and I look forward to working with the next council. And I want to thank everybody.
Guess I'm forced to say something, huh?
No?
Just kidding. Thank you, staff, first off. To echo what Councilor Moran said, you guys do a tremendous job every single day. You paved the path. You guys have gotten us all the information we've asked for and then more, and we couldn't thank you enough. Also, the other councilors, again, I know we get in our executive session meetings and it's an all-out brawl, but at the end, I think great outcomes come from it. So I really appreciate those moments. And again, like Councilor Moran, this is a wake up and grow up moment. So I'm really fortunate to have been in this position for the past 2 years. So I thank the voters. I am officially going to be excited to see the Ward 2 councilor, the new one, take over. I haven't seen him in a meeting before, so I'd like to see him in a meeting. And good luck to the new elected people. And Mr. Mayor, personally, thank you so much for everything that you've done for the city, its constituents. I know you work your butt off every single day, and it's not seen and it's not praised like it should be. So I appreciate everything that you did. And City Manager, thank you so much. Great work. You and Brian both did a wonderful job, and look forward to seeing you guys in the future. So thanks so much.
I'll be brief. Thanks to everyone. I sort of echo what Representative Shaw said. I think she's absolutely right. And I will say that in looking at agendas and looking at all these votes, we have agreed on more things than we've disagreed on, and maybe the things we disagreed on, we disagreed vehemently, but generally done in a fairly collegial fashion, and I appreciate that.
Thanks, Mayor, Council. So I'll go back to city business now that all the accolades are done. But I think there was a question regarding activity on Penley Corner Road with the Lopka property, and I just wanted to give an update on that. The Lopka board had a discussion at one of their board meetings about the building that's out there that currently that's cold storage. It's a kind of mothballed building at this point with the changes regarding PFAS. So there was a request that was, comment that was made at one of their board meetings on if Lewiston or city staff had need for storage. So many people saw Lewiston moving items in there. That had not been vetted through the planning department for that use. There's a lot of restrictions on that parcel. So that's been temporarily suspended. So there'll be no activity there. But I know I was asked by a councilor to make sure I bring that up, just with the action that took place. I was glad that somebody brought it to our attention and we were able to address that. I'm sure it'll be brought back before the board, and then the planning department will work through that. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I've got my last report. I call it a follow-up, specifically for the public, staff, and the councilors that are moving on to the next session. It's a couple, if you would, unresolved items. First of all, we started actually this winter or last winter talking about eminent domain for properties that were derelict in a public safety hazard, namely the barn over on Midas Avenue. I want to make sure that councilors that are staying there follow through with that and make sure that happens. It's an absolute safety threat to the new Everett Little High School. That's why I brought it up in my State of the City address. Second, Lewis Auburn Railroad Corporation. It is a corporation. I sit on it. There's 33% of the shares go to the City of Auburn. The rest are in Lewiston, though 90% of the revenue is derived from Auburn operations, whereas the vast majority of the property that doesn't create revenue is in Lewiston, in the most part, sitting in a quasi-land trust or a land bank. I have fought vehemently for fairness in this, a distribution of funds, which is by corporate charter stated it should have. They refuse. We need to address this. We need to reorganize that corporation. It is past time. Auburn is not getting any economic benefit for the rail that flows through its city from elsewhere going to somewhere else. So that is a serious issue that has not been addressed. Second, I'd like to urge us to keep in mind a renegotiation of water costs for our ratepayers and a proper apportionment of those costs in order to sanitize our water and deliver our water. Right now, Lewiston Auburn splits costs 50-50, though Lewiston uses approximately 63 to 65% of that water. We do pay a disproportionately high amount of the operating cost. This is going to come in very important in the near future if climate change continues on this pace. So that needs to be addressed. Hold on, let me bring up the rest of my notes. Stevens Mills, baseball, softball fields. 5 years ago, I begged and pleaded on bent knee in a cold call meeting to the Maine Army National Guard at Camp Keys. We got them to do this. It's working. Everybody's involved. We have millions of dollars of work being done by the Maine National Guard that myself and Mark Gosling coordinated, along with Eric Cousins and John Blay on the permitting side of this. We got to see this through and get this done. And then finalize the sale. Mechanics Row property. We have one parcel that's still left for sale adjacent to this parking garage. There's an interested buyer. They're ready to go. I know when we put this up years ago, I worked with Jay, Brian, Glenn, we've all worked this sale. It's getting close. See it through. It will revolutionize and change Auburn's downtown. Absolutely revolutionize it. The other thing is Walton School. I'm going to bring this up on the agenda Wednesday. There's an order to create a transitional committee with the anticipation of closing Walton School. This is based upon a study showing population declines based upon census data in 2020. I am leaning towards a no at this point because I do not think we took into consideration all of the growth we've had since 2020 to 2023. Now, whereas I'm not sure if that all fell under the Walton district or not, it's still substantial, approximately 12 to 1,600 people. I am not ready to throw in the towel and believe that the next council and mayor are anti-growth. But I will say that the only way to save Walton is to justify it with kids. If there are no kids, there's no need to have a school. So I'll be paying attention. I urge everyone to pay attention to the the meeting with the school board this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Important decisions are starting to be made based upon the communication that happens at that meeting. Now, this is my probably, we think, 158th city council meeting in 6 years. And I just want to thank you all very much. I know we all want to go home. I want to get my new rocking chair going. But I will say this, it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you all at the grocery store. And to Phil Kroll and Brian Wood and city staff, a special thank you, okay, for helping. And we all work together, and people never see this. Respecting boundaries, respecting jobs, respecting chain of command and chain of concern, and having trust. And I always joked that I have less interaction with staff than a regular resident would because I respect the chain of command, the authority level placed on our city manager and department heads, because I just don't pick up the phone and randomly call them all the time. There was a couple times I did, though.
A few.
Yeah, they told you, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, you're not supposed to do that. But all in all, listen, Auburn, and you might not think about it, the elections say one thing, but I will say this. Nationally, we have an amazing reputation. Our staff, our government, what we do here, I'm not going to lose an ounce of sleep on what we've done, what we've accomplished, and I hope none of you do either. So thank you all very much. This time, my final act as mayor after 6 years is asking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to move.
Councilor Walker, do I have a second?
I second.
Councilor Milks, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all, folks. Appreciate it.